Hey, good morning. This is the Forward Motion Business Show, the home edition. I'm Professor Ken.
And I'm Professor Paul Marino.
And welcome for joining our show. This is the home edition. The at-home edition was still coming out of the coronavirus pandemic, so we're not yet in the studio, but that's okay. We have the opportunity now to speak online via our electronic meeting devices and all that fun stuff. And today we have a great show for you. We're actually talking about a video that Paul and I both watch frequently online by T-Bone's Picking, and he talks about the leadership plan and what's important in being a leader. And then after that, we'll spend a few minutes talking about what we are doing as business leaders coming out of the virus situation now that we are starting to come out of that. And we have our guests today from Arrowmail. We have Kiki and Michelle, who's going to join us and tell us a little bit about their company and what they're doing for the business community and how they're being innovative in the Florida area and all over the country, actually, because they go nationwide, of course. So Paul, why don't we start with the video, the leadership plan by T-Bone's Pickings. And I think we both watched that video a few times, and I really, it's about a 15-minute video, and I think it was a TEDx talk that he did at the university, one of the university he graduated from, which I think was Oklahoma or Ohio, right? Which one was it? Oklahoma?
No, it was Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, right. And basically, what I took away from that is obviously T-Bone Pickens is a phenomenal leader, a business leader. So there's a lot of stories about him, but he really talked about being a leader with a plan. And he had this one expression in it, which I thought was pretty cool. He said, and he says as he tells the story, that his dad told him this, that a fool with a plan can beat a genius with no plan. So that was pretty telling. And basically the idea is that no matter what you do, you have to have a plan, right? You just can't wake up and take on the world, although some of us could do that, but there has to be a plan in leadership. So what are your thoughts on that, Paul, and the whole video concept that he put out there?
Well, it goes back, if you watched Alice in Wonderland, where she's lost and she has the conversation with the Cheshire Cat, and she says to him, "Which road should I take?" And he says to her, "Well, where do you want to go?" And she says, "Well, I really don't know." So the Cheshire Cat says, "Then you can go anyway. You can choose any road because you don't know where you want to go."
Right.
So he's telling businesses, and this is a man who was a billionaire who created one of the most incredible companies in the oil industry. He's telling businesses that you have to have a plan. You have to have a goal, and it has to be a daily goal, a monthly goal, and a yearly goal. And every time I consult with businesses, I say to them, what is your goal? Where do you want to be P&L 2 years from now? Where do you, and what concrete steps are you going to take to get to that goal? And I think if more individuals did that and more small businesses did that, they would find themselves in a much better position.
Yeah, and I think that's right. And so I'm going to flip over to Kiki and Michelle here for a second, because I know you guys are in marketing and advertising, and so am I. And one of the things that I come across when I speak to clients is, well, I want to do whatever they want to do, a video, online video. And I ask them, okay, well, the first question you always ask, right, is who's your target audience? Make sure you get the right target audience. And then what's your goal? And then they say, oh, I want the whole world to know about me. Well, that's wonderful. So how do you handle that at Arrowmail when someone comes in and they want to do a campaign? Do you ask them what their goals are? Do you sit them down and say, listen, it's got to be a little more targeted?
Absolutely. One of the first things you ask them is, who is your target audience, like you were saying? And so something that we provide, for instance, would be like a mailing list that allows them to pick and choose their demographics based on their target audience. Right. And so when we go to create a direct mailer, for instance, the message has to be specific to who they want to sell, let's say it's a product, who they want to sell their product to and how it relates to them. And so not only are you thinking about what's being designed and what's being sent to them, but now you're also picking, who it's being sent to.
Right.
and ultimately that will have a better, you know, a better response and a better outcome. And you know, you'll sell your product because it's the right person. It gets in the right hands.
Yeah,
I think
and
more than that, I think more than that, the process of getting the mailing list, right? It seems like, okay, well, you need a mailing list to send things, but more than anything, it forces somebody to go through the steps to evaluate who they want to target.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it kind of helps focus the client. And something that seems so innocent, like an obvious step, it actually forces them through the process.
Right, right.
Yeah, and I think that's key too, because what we're talking about here and what Tebow and Pickens talk about is, you know, he says, well, you have to have a plan, and part of knowing the plan is writing it down. I mean, I go back, you know, I started way back when, so I used to have these things called daytimers. So I actually have in my attic here, I have plans that go back to 1986, believe it or not, with my goals every year, and I've got my kids involved in that and stuff. But I think what the whole goal here is, and like you said with the list, you have to know what your plan is, right? Because you can't go from point A to point B without a roadmap. Just like the story that's Paul sharing in Alice in Wonderland. If you don't know what path you want to take, then how do you know the path is right for you? And you know, he talked about one thing too, and I pulled out a couple of quick sayings. He talked about this concept of ready, aim, 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 which means, you know, you get ready to do something and you just plan and plan and plan and plan, but you really don't focus in on targeting. So Paul, what other takeaways did you get from that video that we can share with our viewers as well?
Well, I show it in my class all the time. I teach entrepreneurship, and I make the students watch that, and I make them give me a one-page plan of what you're going to do to get to your goal. Now, it's not a business plan. I don't want a business plan. I want to know the steps that you're going to take to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve, whether it be graduating from college, whether it be getting into graduate school,
right.
Starting a business. Tell me the concrete steps you're going to take to, get to that goal. And the phrase that you just mentioned is very important. He says, some people are ready, aim, aim. What he's saying is, once you get your plan, you have to pull the trigger. It has to be ready, aim, shoot. If you're afraid to pull the trigger, then nothing's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, that is so true. And I'll share a phrase that I borrowed and I use quite often is the cost of being wrong is much less than the cost of doing nothing at all, right? So if you could sit down and do nothing, that's great. If doing nothing is something, but it's doing nothing, there's higher cost to doing nothing than the cost of doing something wrong. Now, ladies, I know you're in marketing and you especially copies and stuff like that. So you're very particular in making sure all the lines are crossed and the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, which you have to be, right? Because you're in copy intensive and doing mailings and things like that. But the truth is, I rather send something out as a marketing campaign that is 90% there than wait 3 months and get it 100%. Only because we're moving so fast now, and it's about communication and mass appeal. So it's an interesting concept. I think it's a video that everyone should take a look on. It's based on the book, his process called The Leadership Plan. And what I love about YouTube right now is that there's so many things that you can spend hours on. In fact, the views are up, right? But there's actually good stuff on there. If you don't, once you get away from looking at all the cats jumping up and down and things like that, you can actually learn something from YouTube. So it's pretty cool. So why don't we spend a couple of minutes now as we move into our next segment here and talk about what businesses are doing to come out of this crisis situation. Here we are now in the coming into the second week of June. So it's been, I guess, we're in month 3, more or less. And here we're down here in South Florida, and most of Florida is starting to open up. I think we might be officially in phase 2 of our open up policy or something like that, right? And I know that it's great to get out again. I was actually out and about over the weekend, which is phenomenal. But businesses are still in the middle of this situation. And there's a complicated thing going on there. I mean, if you're a restaurant, you're still struggling. If you have an online business, you might be doing better than others. But what do you think if I come to Arrowmail and I said, hey, I need help in communicating to my customers coming out of this crisis, what would your suggestions be to help a business coming out of this?
Well, I think with so many people at home right now, you know, the idea of actually sending them something to their homes to let them know that they're still in business, and to maybe attract them to come out and actually join the real world, let's say, and come back and go to their stores again. With so much emails being sent and internet stuff happening, I think actually receiving something in the mail gives people something to look forward to, and maybe even setting up, package options or pricing options and giving them that information in hand versus online. I think that's a good way to communicate to your customers that you're still there and that you're still, working, and maybe attract them to come back. That's something that we've actually done as well. We've been very good at sending,
So I have a little bit of a different take on this. And something that we've actually implemented, but not in the sense of mailing so much. One thing that we've done is, as things became slow because companies were shut down and whatnot, we made a point to identify, make sure we identified the customers that were still open, identified the customers that have yet to open, and offer solutions.
Right.
So we created, there were many services that we invented, during this pandemic, to offer solutions. So stuff that wasn't necessary in the past, offering to pick up somebody's incoming mail. We don't deal with incoming mail.
Yeah, we didn't do.
I'm like, we don't deal with incoming mail. We deal with all outgoing mail in the past. But now somebody's not at their office to pick up their mail.
So we go in.
So we created several services, and we were honest with our clients. People are like, oh, well, how does this work? And the first one I go, you know what? I don't know. Let's create this together. Just show them that we're here to help them, and whether it's they're still functioning but at a limited capacity in their offices, or they've shut down completely and they're trying to open up. So essentially we've offered solutions to our clients, and let them know that through the hardest times that we've gone through, because the economy has been difficult the past few months. Through the hardest times that them and their companies are going through, we're here to help. Maybe it's not sending out a mailing, maybe it is, but whatever the case is, we're here to solve your problems. And so letting your clients know that you're there at any capacity, stepping out of your comfort zone is definitely a plus, and it's helped us retain clients, and the sooner that they open up, the better that we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
a lot of
everybody out.
Right, and a lot of that is the communication factor. Whether it is being sent through the mail or email or phone calls. Just continuing the conversation with your employees and with your clients, letting them know that you're there. Letting them know you're open.
I love that. I love that solution. That it's important to be solution based all the time. But I love that idea that you have to help them pick up their mail and sort of help them get through this time of need, of crisis, where it's sort of a comfort level where that that you can count on your business, to help us. And what I like about that is, listen, it's easy to be helpful when the times are good. It's when times are tough that you really you gotta really get in there and do what you can to help in all kinds of different ways. And I love that idea about making yourself available with these solutions, because we there's so many questions now that are unanswered, right? There's more questions than answers. So if we can get some solutions to things, it's a great thing. Paul, what do you think about coming out of this as a business? I mean, what are you looking at in terms of what do you want to see from a business now coming out of this?
Well, what I wanted to ask Kiki and Michelle is, about a week or two ago, we did an interview with a very creative gentleman. He converted a farm store into actually a takeout restaurant. I don't know if you had the opportunity to see that tape, but let's say he wanted to increase his footprint. Let's say he wanted more traffic going through his store. So he comes into your company and he says, this is where I am, this is what I'm doing, this is my location. What would you suggest to him? What would you say to him? How could you help him?
Well, off the top of my head, my first suggestion would be look at his signage, whether it be banners which is stuff that we're qualified to handle, banners, and also potentially a new DDM mailing. So a mailing that would hit every house and every business in the surrounding area. To get the word out, to let people know that, hey, we're open and we are the easiest, we're your best option for dining out. Right. Before everything happened, we were COVID compliant, but that would probably be the first obvious. Yeah. Perhaps the second would have to come from, speaking to the client and seeing what directions he'd want to go and consult with him. But without more information, those would be my top two recommendations.
Well, in marketing, Ken will agree with me, you need to have repeated hits. One hit is not going to serve anyone's interest because someone may be in a bad mood, they may not look at it, it may get lost in the mail, So
get it in front of them 3 times.
Yeah, at least three times. Exactly right. Yeah.
So.
No, we like to let our clients know that the repetition is key. Consistency is key. You want to get your brand out there. You want them to see it several times, and it usually takes 3 times before they actually, make the call or go to the restaurant or, so
different medias as
well. And
different medias, right.
Yeah. We like to let them know, you definitely want to integrate internet and social media. You want to use all channels, but they should all be cohesive and work together to give you the final result, which is obviously to
get your message across.
And to get your message across, right.
Yeah.
Now, a small entrepreneur, they may say, this is outside my budget. Is that true? Not true? I mean, can you help a small entrepreneur, a restaurant owner, a takeout place? Is that within your customer profile?
It is.
Help somebody like that?
We have several. We have companies of
large scale.
We span the spectrum. But yes, there is generally what's it called? Depending, you have many options. You have many options as far as what you would like to do. Many pricing points. Right. Something that would be used by a large bank or a large insurance company wouldn't be the same plan that we'd go for a smaller company or a nonprofit that we helped out not too long ago.
Right. Like if you do EDDM, which is every door direct mail, that tends to be less expensive than purchasing a list and sending something out that way. So that's one of the easier examples that we offer our clients.
Yeah. But also it's about sitting down with the small business owner and really identifying who we'd want to target. In order to make sure that he's getting he or she is getting their bang for their buck.
Right.
Because one thing that we do help with our clients, regardless of the size, is make sure that they're not wasting money. I'm like, it's so easy to waste money on advertising and on marketing, and just with even like on printed material, sending stuff out, there's so many mistakes you could make with mailing that'll make your postage skyrocket. Right. And so we're here to prevent that,
Right.
And I think that's important. And one thing that I always try to tell everyone too is it's an investment, right? You can look at it as an expense, and most business owners do. I have to pay X amount of dollars to do a marketing campaign or a mail campaign or whatever type of campaign you decide to do. Yes, that's true. At the end of the day, you have to pay something for it, but it's an investment. You have to look at that return on investment, that ROI, and you have to factor in what we call that customer acquisition rate, right? If you spend $1,000 and send it to, I don't know, let's say 10,000 homes, whatever that math is, I don't know, I can't do math early in the morning, 10 cents a piece or whatever it is. So, and then you get a customer out of that and you sell them a $5 sandwich or a $20 meal, or if you're a restaurant, if you get them to come in and cut their hair with you 3 times a year. Now you built that customer up and you have customer lifetime value. So it might have cost you $1 to get them, but now they're doing business with you 3 times a year, 4 times a year, 5 times a year. So you look at what I call that customer lifetime value. So the acquisition rate comes down year 2, but it's an investment, because if you're in a community and you have X amount of households you want to penetrate, it costs you something to get into those households, but then you have to amortize that cost over the lifetime value that they have. I'll give you a great case of point. We used to have a pizzeria here locally. Unfortunately, the virus has shut them down. And I've been in this neighborhood 20 years, and I probably would spend, so on average, there's 5 of us, there would be 5 of us in and out of the house, so maybe $50 every time we order pizza, sandwiches, whatever it is, at least 6 times a year, right? So that's $300, $400, $500. Let's say $500 a year for 20 years. That's the value I was to them. And they got me originally by an ad they had when I first bought the house. So whatever they spent on that ad 20 years ago, they got that back so many times. And I think that's the important key that business owners have to recognize when they spend money on advertising and promotions, right?
Yeah, you got to spend a little money to make money.
That's
you know?
right.
But it is a difficult.
Go ahead.
It is a difficult sell, especially when you're dealing with small business owners.
Yeah.
You know, helping them, that's part of what we do, helping them understand the benefits,
the value of
because it's you know, you send one out, you're not going to have people rushing to your door.
It's right. There's no magic. You're right. You don't have any magic sauce. It's a process.
Right. That's why consistency is the key there, you know.
Yeah, and I'll share a quick story with you. So I do the digital online stuff, and my company also builds website. And I had a client I put a website up for just last year, literally a year this week, and it's time to renew. You have to pay for the hosting every year and all that stuff. And I call him up and said, okay, we just got to charge the card. It's not even $300 a year, right? You know what the question he asked me was, do I really need a website? I'm like, what?
Oh
so I'm wondering, it's like you mentioned the sign earlier, right? It's like, how do you have a business today and not have a website when everybody in the world is on their phone looking for stuff? So it's the same type of concept. Is that you have to make an investment, whether you do direct mail. And by the way, I love the concept of direct mail now, because it does, I think your eyeballs are more intense right now, right? Because I think there is fatigue on looking online stuff, and it's kind of exciting to get something in the mail, right? It could be an event. You could actually get out of the house and walk to the mailbox to get the mail, make an event. But that's wonderful. So one as we come out of this segment to talking about it, I know we discussed the value of employees, and I know that's a big part of how businesses are handling coming out of this crisis. Because let's face it, there are businesses that suffered tremendously. Employees, of course, were laid off. In some cases, lost their job, and it's hard to maintain that true spirit within the company, because everyone's sort of deflated. Although I think now we're getting a little more motivated to get back to a way of life that we were used to, right? So I know we talked earlier about how you value your employees and your team members, and so tell us a little bit about what that looks like at Arrowmail and how you're making that work and coming out of this crisis as well.
Well, we originally spoke about innovation, and my point of view, as counterintuitive as it was, is that kind of a throwback, you know, valuing your employee, you know, helping your employee have pride in the job that they do. And this isn't only taking care of your employee financially, but as a whole, you know, knowing that if we could help solve a problem in their lives, you know, give them the tools to do it, you know, help them by giving them the tools to do it, and really taking care of the whole employee, whether it's, you know, during this pandemic, letting them know that we're keeping them safe and taking steps to keeping them safe.
Right.
You know, and again, going back, not only physically and healthy, you know, they're health-wise safe, but financially as well. You know, let them know we're here for you. We're doing our best to make sure that we can keep everybody on the payroll, and make sure that you have income coming in, which is probably the scariest part about this pandemic. You know, that idea of, you don't know if you're going to have a job. You don't know if you're going to be able to feed your children or put a roof over your head. We've tried to make sure that, you know, ensure our employees that we're here for them, and we're gonna do our best to make sure that you're okay. Right. You know, so by easing those fears, you know, they could concentrate on, you know, just in life in general, they could concentrate on more important things, you know, taking care of loved ones and whatnot. So with that type of support, you know, people notice it, people appreciate it. And you know, I think I mentioned before when we were talking about, you know, things we were doing with our clients in the pandemics, but people remember who was there helping you when you were in your time of need.
Right.
You know, and so our employees knowing that we're here, it creates a loyalty, you know, and people, you know, they work for the pride of the company. And you know, happy employees means happy clients, because we're going to go above and beyond.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, as much as our company has grown significantly in the last 30 years, we've gone almost absolutely, you know, corporate when you're dealing with our machinery and whatnot. But we've kept the whole mom and pop feel as far as like the company administration, and how we deal with our clients. And I think, you know, part of that is taking care of your employees, and they've responded. Yeah. You know, but yeah, I guess the best thing is just to, you know, because of that, how we've measured this, not only the stories that I hear throughout the plant floor, but it's our retention rate. Right. You know, we're looking at, you know, an average of 17 years. Of the 30 that we've been open, the average employee has been here 17 years. And we're family, you know, we're family, and we bring down that average. I only started here about 5 years ago, and
I've been here for 8.
Right.
So we're like the lower
You're at the
bar.
young end of the scale, right? You don't have the seniority yet.
Yeah.
That's great.
You know, but there are people that have stayed with us, you know, not only, you know, well, because they like,
enjoy working here. I mean, the family feel and everyone taking care of each other. And it makes them feel safe. Right. You know,
and that's value. You can't put a value on that. And even though there may be a cost to it at the moment, you know, obviously companies deal with the cost of going above and beyond, but the value is so much higher than the cost. You know, you really can't put a dollar sign on that, because that, like you said, the comfort of knowing that you could focus on what you need to focus on, and you can be there for your family and not worry about putting food on the table. That's how do you put a dollar sign on that, regardless of it? You know, that's important. That's really cool that you're doing that. That's a nice thing.
We've seen the benefits. Our company, the administration of our company has seen the benefits, in the sense of everybody here, when we were alternating shifts to have fewer people in the building and whatnot. And, you know, people were put in positions. I myself, Kiki herself, we were all put in positions to do jobs that we weren't accustomed to doing.
Step up.
It's been an interesting few months, but what we've seen from our employees, them seeing us busting our butts, trying to make sure that they're taken care of, they've stepped up as well. Right. So as we're doing things, you know, people have stepped into positions, into roles that they've never had to deal with before, that we haven't needed before, you know. And really, you know, a lot of positive peer pressure to make sure that everybody is taking care of one another. You know, so it's you know, as much as, you know, financially, as demand lowered through this whole COVID, and costs increased, of course, we, you know, because of everybody's reaction, of our employees' reaction, we've definitely been the lucky ones. You know, we've been absolutely lucky to have such a great team, you know, on board.
Yeah, what a great story. That's a great thing to do, and you know, and I'm happy to hear that it's working, and I'm sure coming out of this, you might not see the results tomorrow, but maybe the average time there will be 35 years, you know, 10 years from now, because that's what's going to happen. You build that sense of a want, you know, being wanted and being valued, which is the employees are the most important part of any company, regardless of what size you are. So all right, so here's where we put you guys, you have to put your thinking caps on here and share some information with us about Arrowmail. And you don't have to give us anything that is too proprietary or too personal in nature for the company. But we always ask our guests to share with us some type of a mistake, and I don't like to use a mistake, because in marketing, in business and marketing, there's just things that you do that just didn't work right. But what would you say would be a $10,000 mistake moment for the company that you could share with us? I know there's probably others. If you're in business 30 years, there's more than one.
No, I was gonna say you're gonna be disappointed.
Yeah, a little disappointed.
I read your email and I knew you were going to ask this. I'll confess to everybody. I knew he was going to ask this, so I did my research.
Yeah.
And we haven't had a $10,000 mistake in 30 years. I asked each of the owners to say, I'm like anything, give me something. I have to say something, you know? But it's not to say that we haven't made mistakes. We've made, there've been plenty of mistakes, whether we fell short because nobody's perfect, or you know, a machine broke down and you know, what have you.
Downtime.
Right. But luckily we haven't been in a position where it's been a $10,000 mistake. You know, one thing that I was talking to the owner, and she mentioned, she's like, we haven't. I'm like, come on. And and she mentioned, she goes, the reason that we haven't is because we've reacted.
Good.
So there were problems. You know, we've had machines go down, not sort stuff properly. That could have been a huge issue with postage and the post office and whatnot.
Sure.
Large penalties. But we've reacted. We've always reacted, you know, properly when something like that has happened. We've learned, and we've fixed it and learned.
And we planned for the future as well.
Right.
You know, we've had, like you were
saying,
my
my uncle, in speaking to my aunt about this and about the past of the company and whatnot, she mentioned one thing that said, my uncle, she's like, if it weren't for him, we wouldn't be in business.
Right.
He, in planning this company and in setting his goals and doing his plans for the future, he always planned for the worst. He thought of every contingency, you know, and he made sure that he knew what he was going to do in certain things. So, and he covered himself. So whether it be by insurance or making sure that we have enough liquid cash flow, you know, in the event of emergency, like a pandemic, you know, so he always thought ahead and, you know, like hell or high water, we were going to be okay. Right. My aunt had mentioned that had it been for her, she's more like, all right, it's coming. She's going to open her umbrella, put her wellies on, and just weather the storm.
That's great. It's interesting you say that, because remember, we started this whole conversation with the whole idea is, you know, you have to have a plan, right? Fools with a plan can beat a genius with none. And it sounds like your uncle was exactly that, built that type of model. Have a plan. Yeah, you have to look at the pros and the cons, the goods and the bads. But if you don't have that plan, it's a little hectic to try to get through the day-to-day without having a plan and to have the foresight to think ahead and all that. That's wonderful.
That it was a little obsessive at
just
points.
a little.
Well, you know what? You don't build a 30-year-old company by not being a little obsessive. So that makes a lot of sense.
She's so happy that he did. You know, she was kind of like, got annoying sometimes, but she was very happy that he took those steps and she saw the merit behind it.
Sure. So as we come to a close on our session, tell us a little bit what can you do? What is your specialty at Arrowmail? How can you help a business anywhere. I'm assuming you go anywhere in the U.S., right? I know you're local here in South Florida, but you can obviously work the whole country, maybe even international, if you can tell us that. But what can you do today to help a business as they come out of this and they start putting the pieces together and open up the doors again and start trying to generate revenue? Tell us the plan of action you want to see a business take, and how can you help them build that up?
Well, beyond getting beyond print and through social media and emailing and whatnot, different campaigns, marketing campaigns, we'd really like to help a client go from A to Z, from the beginning of the idea to whether it's mailed, the piece is mailed and whatnot, but helping them let people know that they're there. I think a lot of the questions that we have nowadays is oh, I want to go to so-and-so, things are opening up, I want to go to so-and-so, but are they open?
But then,
So I think one answer that everybody needs is, yes, we're here, we're open, these are our hours, whatever the case is, not much has changed, so that's definitely the main thing that we want to, kind of help people do. And we could do this across the nation.
Right.
So internationally as well, although mailing has been sketchy internationally lately.
Yeah, there could be some issues there. Is there a product or a service that's different or innovative, whether it be a die cut type of thing or material, or is there something out there that you said, oh wow, this is different than new, that you could introduce to some of our viewers now that they may not have heard of before?
Well, there's always going to be different kinds of papers that you can print on and substrates like that. So for me, I get really geeky on that type of stuff because I'm the designer. So I look at what we're printing on and how it's going to feel in your hands. But
there's actually, now that you mention it, there's actually this relatively new technology within past 1 or 2 years. Where it's using QR codes, which we've all used QR codes, right? But normally a QR code is for it's for your information or whatever it is. It sends you to your website. This actually is a video, an interactive video that is queued up by the QR code.
Right.
So you have a mail piece that you've received, and there's a QR code on it, and by using it, it sends you to a promo video. Or depending on what you want to do, there have been people that have been very creative as to incorporating their message into, what is it that they use, like on Pokemon search, where it puts different people in front of what you're seeing.
Video augmentation.
Yeah, there we go. And I'm not the techie.
Yeah. But it allows you to get your message out there in a different, unique way, and it's using technology. So if for instance, you wanted to send something to your clients regarding this video, you want them to see this video, you put that QR code on your mailed piece, and all they have to do is take their phone, open up their camera app, and shove the camera in front of it, and it'll pop up the link, and you go straight to this YouTube video that we just did.
That's phenomenal. So, and that's great, because that's where it's all out right now, right? I like to see it on video, and that's important. Great. So so Paul, as we come to a close to the session, what are your thoughts on what we talked about today, having a plan and being out there and making sure that you take aim and you pull the trigger, or you put some action in place when it comes to the whole perspective of not only direct mail, but maybe marketing in general?
Well, was that directed to me or to you, Kiki?
Kiki, let Kiki let Kiki answer.
Let Kiki at it.
Well, you definitely have to be proactive.
Yes.
You don't want to just sit there and assume that your customers know that you're open. You want to send that message out, and you definitely want to make a plan on how you're going to do that, whether it's marketing online or relaying the message on your website or sending something through direct mail campaigns. You don't want to be a sitting duck. You got to let your people know that you're there and that you're available, and that you're open for business.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind, right? Even while we're all locked up in our house, we still got to be recognized. Very cool.
Right. Even if you're not working like in the office, you know, you can do stuff like this. You can do a Zoom chat. You can get in front of people's faces by thinking outside the box and giving them a phone call, video chat. You know.
That's right.
So it's thinking a little differently than we were used to before, but I think the connection can still be there, you know, and that's, you just got to get the message out, you know.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, Professor Ken, it's amazing, Kiki, that you said what you said, because my thoughts were along the same line. What we're experiencing now in this process is going to become the norm going forward. We have to learn new techniques and new ways to market and to do business, which is going to become the norm moving forward. So if I had a message for a viewer who was watching this tape, I would say what you should do is pull the trigger. Schedule a video chat with you ladies, with Arrowmail, and just explore ideas. And let you and that entrepreneur sit down and say to you, ladies, this is what I do. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. Can you help me? Do you bring value to my proposition? And just by making that 15-minute, 20-minute Zoom call or phone call, however they want to contact you, is a way of making a positive step and a positive plan to be proactive and not sitting back and being a victim of circumstance.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, we would love that. Give us a call.
Let people know.
Yeah, they will, and we'll send some of our clients and the people that we work with to you too. And that's Arrow. I guess the website would be what? Is it Arrowmail? Tell us what the website is.
Arrowmailservice.com.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. Well, listen, I want to thank both of you, Kiki, Michelle, for joining us from Arrowmail, and we really appreciate what you've done and shared that story. And I really, thinking back on what you said about the employee and the family, and that's so important, and that's how come your company is long lasting, and it plants the flag in South Florida, and that's valuable, right? The people are valuable too. And I really appreciate what you offer and service wise. And I look forward to working with you and seeing you out there. And thanks for joining our show.
Yes,
Thank you.
We loved it.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that's our show for today. Thanks for joining us. This is Professor Ken.
And I'm Professor Paul Marino.
And you've been listening to the Forward Motion Business Show, the at-home edition. Hopefully we'll see you real soon from our studios in the next few weeks, but stay with us here online, and we'll bring great business innovators with you all the time. All right, that's all I have for now. See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.